Welcome to Conquer the Clutter podcast. Good to see all of you, familiar faces and new ones as well. Welcome. We are talking about our series on narcissistic parenting. Not that the person necessarily had to tick every box to have a narcissistic personality disorder, but the side effects. If your parent had narcissistic traits, what would okay, so could I get everybody to mute themselves so that we'll cut that out and I'll do it again, okay? So could I ask everyone just to cut out the background noise? All right, so we're going to talk about narcissistic personality traits in parents. Not that it means that your parent had to tick enough boxes that they actually had a narcissistic personality disorder, but what are the normal, common side effects to the extent that might have been true? We're going to do a tiny recap of the effect on sons, how fathers in particular, although it could be mothers, it could be significant others, but we're going to speak in terms of fathers and their role, their traditional, normal role within the family. So, narcissistic father-son relationships, while little girls were manipulated under the narcissistic belief, I'm your protector, I will keep you from safe and from harm, boys are generally raised in a different manner, all right? Projection is a huge behavior choice among narcissists with their sons. In the case of the father-son relationship, it becomes even more apparent because the son is not only the person who could make his father look great, but he's also the object on which the narcissistic father rejects his own masculinity and every masculine trait he sees in himself. His desire to dominate, to win, to gain power, success, and recognition get translated into a more aggressive expression related to his sons. Remember too that all children are not necessarily treated the same. Even within boys in the family, there can be the golden child. And if there's a golden child, and there usually is, then there is a scapegoat, at least one. All right? Okay. So now when it comes to daughters, many daughters grow up thinking their fathers really just wanted to protect them and keep them safe. In reality, what they discover as they grow up is that the only thing their father wanted was to feel important, in control, and because that validates the father. The more control, the more important they feel, which is a driving factor in any personality trait among anyone, not just fathers. Narcissistic fathers keep their daughters small. They're princess. They're sweet girl. They're all the traits that mold that child and deprive that child of their own true authentic nature. And they do that by making them question themselves, by in various ways putting them down and making them feel and believe that it's a good thing, it's a privilege, it's loving, that you're in a one down position where you can't really the world is too scary. Men are too irresponsible. You need protection. You need someone to take care of you. All right. So they discourage them and they dismiss anything or minimize or undermine or question anything that deviates from that perception of how the daughter should be. And so the molding continues. Anything that represents an expression of individuality is inconvenient, questionable. It could be how the young woman projects her physical looks, the confidence in her own body, in her own sexuality, even before it has an overt sexual expression, all right, is controlled, is assessed, is judged. Certainly personal beliefs, they need to fit whatever the script is, all right? And there are many, many pressures put on daughters in particular, but sons as well behaviorally. So their opinions are guided, are corrected. Their interests are, what would the word be? They are guided again onto paths that are deemed appropriate or things that will be useful in future life as a wife, as a mother, ambitions, the degree to which young women are allowed, supported to have ambitions that are unique to their individuality, to their own idea of how they want their life to play out, their emotions. You know, it's okay for girls to cry. It's not okay for boys to cry. But girls have to be sweet. They have to be gentle. They have to be understanding. They have to be, fill in the blank. All right. And anything that is not according to the plan is unwanted, unacceptable, and sometimes couched and portrayed as disrespectful or, heaven, unappreciative. You're unappreciative of this wonderful love, this wonderful guidance, this wonderful care and protection. All right. All right. So if you're asking yourself, really, did my parent have narcissistic traits? I kind of have rumblings that, all was not well, as my mother used to say in Glockamoro. There was just, the relationship just wasn't kind of on track. It wasn't what it could be. It wasn't the best relationship. It had its challenges. Here are some questions that I want you to ask yourself. Today, as an adult, do you feel like your friends and partners sometimes are using you? Doesn't have to be 100%. But is that something that has crossed your mind more than once? Do you feel emotionally drained by most people you closely relate to? More like you're giving more than you're receiving. Remember that the symptoms of a healthy relationship are reciprocity, not perfection. Every moment isn't a kumbaya moment, all right, but there's reciprocity, there's goodwill, and there is equality. There's respect. Respect does not mean compliance, by the way, all right? Respect is a greatly misinterpreted, sometimes conveniently, trait. Okay, do people make you feel guilty? Do they do things that result? Now, we are all responsible for our own reactions. We are all responsible for our own reactions. But Does their behavior result in you feeling guilty or bad about yourself? Do you feel like your partner, spouse, friends don't care as much about you as they want you to care about them? Do you feel unloved and unappreciated by them? Sounds kind of hokey, right? Unloved and unappreciated. It's been mocked. Not so. This feeling, this vague kind of feeling of I don't matter to them as much as they want me to have them matter to me. They don't make time for me when I need time. I need it now. And I'm not a demanding princess. I'm not somebody who is a narcissist myself and that thinks that everybody should drop things when I need it. But when I really need it, I always have to wait. But they always expect that I'm going to be Johnny on the spot when they need something. That lack of reciprocity, that feeling of just not mattering as much is a frequent, if it is a frequent internal experience for you, it's time to listen to it. Because by listening to it, you're giving yourself and them the opportunity to try to make the adjustments necessary to get those relationships that you value and they value on a healthier, more sustainable footing. All right? Healthier and more sustainable footing. Okay, now let's look at the current state of your mental health. Because if you're attending this workshop, this podcast workshop on narcissism, there's a reason. There's some question in your mind, at least how much this might possibly apply to you or to somebody you really care about. All right. So in looking at your current state of mental health, and remember, all of our mental health is a continuum. And on bad days, none of us score very well. All right. So it's not a matter of because right now your mental health may be challenged that you're mentally ill. No, it just means you've moved down the not doing so well continuum farther than you're comfortable with, and you're starting to realize and recognize that you want to do something effective about it. A few weeks from now, you may be feeling better. You might have felt better in the past. We move up and down this depending on how well, all together now, what do I need? Where is it? And how do I get enough of it to make enough of a difference? Not getting your needs met, you're not setting appropriate healthy boundaries and limits for yourself and others, you're going to be down one end of that continuum, all right, where you don't want to be. All right, it's a fluid, dynamic relationship with yourself. Okay. Are you struggling with depression or has your dysthymia worsened? You want to know about dysthymia? Go back to the podcast on dysthymia. There's a whole podcast on dysthymia. All right. And I have to tell you, you're not alone. Because when I did a blog for Psychology Today on dysthymia, I had 24,000 hits in 72 hours. You're in good company. That doesn't mean it's a place you want to be. And it isn't a place you have to stay. All right. Maybe it just means that in life, the pressures that get put on the people who mold us and the pressures as we see them on us. And let's add COVID to that, folks. We all have had more than enough of this COVID thing, and we're not out of the woods yet. right? So those pressures have a side effect. We can mitigate that side effect. We can't change the reality, but we can change. We can influence, absolutely, the meaning we apply to it and what we do about minimizing it. We can do that. Do you feel anxious and paralyzed or frozen with fear or uncertainty, but you don't quite know why? It's just that kind of, just that vague kind of foggy, I can't move, I don't know what to do. Do you find it hard to be present and to participate in your own life? Are you present for yourself? Because if you're not present for yourself, don't expect anybody else to be effectively either. First and foremost, we are responsible for what do I need? Where is it? And how do I get enough of it to make a difference? Does your mood change unexpectedly and without warning? You know, those flashes of intense emotion or emotional verbal reactions, do they get a jump on you? Do they surprise you? Do they wear you out? Do they embarrass you? Do you feel distant or disconnected from yourself? Are you feeling emotionally worn out? And it's got nothing to do with COVID. Are you? All right. So let's look at self-doubt next, because that is part and parcel of having the legacy of a parent or a significant other who had narcissistic behavior traits, personality traits. Why? Because nobody matters. No matter how nice, how charming they are, nobody matters as much to the narcissist as they do to themselves. And they think they should to everybody else too. They might love you. They might love you with as much love and care as they're capable of. If your parent was a narcissist, you didn't get enough. And it was never on a healthy basis, was always conditional upon something. So would it surprise you that as an adult, you're living with self-doubt? Not that any of us in every moment of our life is 100% on track, knows what to do, what to say, how to make this decision, how to overcome a barrier, how to correct a mistake we make. We don't. But we don't go around in circles. We don't second guess ourselves. We don't beat ourselves up with, oh, could have been better. Okay, yep, we've got questions to ask ourselves. Get ready for that. Do you second guess yourself? Do you? Do you dwell on the past? Here's the operative word, the most important word in this sentence. And continue to judge yourself harshly for not doing better. Do you ever get out of jail when you make a mistake, or you're not perfect, or you could have done better, or? Do you ever stop that and get off that merry-go-round of self-doubt and self-blame, shame, embarrassment, feelings of inadequacy, or maybe just the phrase that started this whole journey we're taking on looking at the effects of narcissistic traits on children? Never feeling enough. Just never feeling enough. Do you constantly feel stuck and indecisive in your daily life? Do you find it hard to make decisions? Sometimes even the simplest decision. Not that many of us go out to restaurants, all right? But you're sitting in a restaurant in front of the menu. The menu's in front of you and you can't decide what to eat. like somehow this was your last meal. All right. Do you have a difficult time? Do you really believe that every decision is so important that it's worth getting stuck over and regretting? Okay, let's look at inability, having a hard time to love and accept yourself. You guessed it, more questions. Okay, do you think you're complicated and hard to love, hard to live with? It's you, all right? You're just complicated. You just complicate everything. Have you heard that so often in your life that you've voiced over that and now you say it to yourself? When the committee convenes, all right, that is the loudest voice and it's in your voice. You weren't born that way. Okay, nobody came into this earth just being complicated, all right, or selfish, or it's all about you. That is another thing a narcissist will say. Make you feel foolish for even questioning them, for even commenting on them. And you think, well, is it? Is it? Well, if you ask yourself, am I? You're not the narcissist in that dynamic. All right, that's one really good acid test for, is it me? If you ask yourself the question, honey, it's not you, okay? Because a narcissist never asks themselves that question. First hint, okay, let yourself out of jail. It's not to say you're perfect, but let yourself out of jail. Okay. Do you expect the P word from yourself? What's the P word, everybody? Perfection. Perfection. Every time you do something, no matter how well you do it, and then maybe it's not even terribly well, but not every situation in life has to be done terribly well. Stop beating yourself up. Okay, there are probably 6 good ways to do anything. Pick one of them and go with it. All right, stop the never-ending search for the ideal perfect. And when you feel, in retrospect, when you have more information, more experience, more input from knowledgeable others, you could have done better. Stop, okay? Go back and read Jane Burkett and Lenora Ewan's book, Procrastination. They cover perfectionism like nobody else covers it. And they've got some really, really good, sensible, user-friendly ways, strategies to deal with it. Have you ever thought that there's something wrong with you? Just fundamentally wrong with you? Okay, I'm not like other people. No, you're not. You're the only one. You are the only one that is you. And I learned as a child, all right, that you were put on this earth because you have a gift. You have a contribution. Sorry, you have a contribution to make to this world that nobody else can make. There is no duplicate. There is no replacement for you. That's why it's so important to be authentically you. There's already a version of the narcissist. We don't need another one of them. All right? We need you to be truthfully and authentically, richly, exactly who you are. The best you can be of who you actually are. Because this world will be poorer if you don't contribute what you were put on this earth to contribute. Let's talk about, this is a good thing to talk about next, unclear identity. Gosh, I hate to repeat myself. all together now. These are more questions to ask yourself. Okay. Do you find it hard to identify and understand yourself and your needs? There we are again. It all starts with your needs. What do you need in this moment, in this circumstance, today, right now, while you're watching this podcast? What do you need? Where is it? It's somewhere. You are not so uniquely normal, abnormal, exceptional, whatever that adjective is going to be. You are not so much of that ability to have that need met adequately, enough, not perfectly, it can be done. But you're the only one who knows what you need. Listen to yourself. Okay. Does your life right now feel directionless? What is your path? What is your path today? Where are you headed? And how does today's journey fit with moving you in the direction you want to go? This does not mean that every single thing you do has to be productive, all right? Okay. Do you find it hard to define who you are? Have you given it enough thought, who you are? Do you feel like your identity is constantly in crisis? Maybe you're on the wrong path. Maybe you're trying to be not who you are. Or maybe the universe or whatever fuels this world, all right, maybe they're trying to make you make a path correction. Are you being authentically you? Are you getting your needs met? Are you contributing in the way that you uniquely can contribute to the lives and the positive intent necessary today? Do you feel like you don't fit in or belong anywhere? Have you become isolated? Generally, if you feel like you don't fit in and you don't belong anywhere, you become isolated, all right? And you don't feel part of something. That's changeable, that's alterable. Okay. It's time to really look at that negative self-talk, because that's probably the underpinning of why you don't feel like you fit or belong anywhere. You don't feel worthy to fit. You don't feel worthy. You don't feel equal. You're not better than. You're not better than anyone. You are not more important than anybody else, but you are equal to everyone on the face of this earth. At this point, okay, we're all probably really sick of me asking and saying, take a deep breath, more questions to ask yourself. Okay. Do you feel like a failure? Do you frequently give in to inner criticism? You just cave, it just overwhelms you, kind of takes your breath away, empties you. Do you dwell? Here's a good one, all right, because none of us have been without mistakes, lots and lots of them every day. In what way today am I going to completely miss the mark is what I ask myself. What am I going to do about it? All right. Do you dwell on past mistakes and failures? We have all, myself included, all right, regularly come up short on something. I am a flawed, imperfect human being, just the way I'm supposed to be. All right. I try harder, not to be perfect, just not to waste my life making the same mistake over and over again. Do we dwell on these while failing to give yourself credit for the successes that you have had? Do you ever think, no matter how small, how many, or how big your successes are, that they're ever enough? Do you? Do you ever give yourself? Well, if you constantly empty the tank with negativity and self-doubt, self-blame, and you dwell on it, you remind yourself of it regularly, that's like going out and siphoning the gas out of your car and then trying to turn it on. No wonder you're not going anywhere. You've got no fuel. You've got no fuel. I don't care what kind of day you have had yesterday or you're going to have today, or you've had so far. Even a stop clock is right twice a day, folks. You've done something right. You've succeeded at something. And if you're not putting that on the balance sheet, come on. You are not superhuman. You, like everybody else, needs your own decent amount of fuel. Okay? Where is that 2-point correction? That 2 times a day a stop clock is right. Where is that version of yesterday and today? Sit down. Your homework is, if you're beating yourself up, your homework is to sit down and write down those 2 things that you did well enough. Avoid the P word. All right? Not perfectly. And even if nobody noticed, even if you didn't get any acknowledgement for them, they're still reality. And what are they today? And that's the list I want you to look at, not the committee's list. You know that agenda that the committee, when they convene, they've got an agenda? No, that's the agenda. Okay, because you always build on your strengths. Always work from your strengths, and you have them. You're not doing your homework. You're not doing your personal inventory homework and being honest with yourself if you can't list at least 10 things you do well. By the age all of us are in your whole life, there aren't 10 things you do well. You need to think harder. There have to be. You've been thinking about the negative too much. You've been listening to the committee. Do you feel like wherever or whatever you do, it's not good enough? You're looking from the wrong list. Never, you always build from your strengths. Always deal from your strengths, all right? And never go to fear. You go to fact. Never get caught up in the maelstrom of fear when you have a decision to make or anything. Something happens, you're not sure. That's normal, you're not sure. Never deal from fear. Never, never, never go to fear. You have to catch yourself. You have to really, really self-regulate not to go there, because fear is like a slippery slope. You ever tried to walk down a hill of grass when there's dew on it? Okay, it's the fastest walk you've ever had. All right. That's what happens when you go to fear, when you let yourself go to fear. And there are lots of times when fear is the first thing that pops up. All right? Lots of times. But when you feel that cold kind of, never go to fear. Stop yourself and check out what is the best source of fact about the basis for that fear. All right? Never go to fear. Deal from fact. Check out the facts. The facts will give you a foundation that is workable. That's why they're facts. They will lead you somewhere. May not give you the answer, but they're going to give you really good information so you can build an answer that's going to work a lot better for you and everybody else around you. All right? Than fear. Fear never accomplished anything other than to defeat you. Occasionally, a fear response, fight, flight, fawn, and freeze, in survival mode. Okay, we're talking survival here. Your actual life is in jeopardy. That's where those apply. And you choose one of the four depending on what is going to save your actual life. It's not the same thing as having a flood, a tsunami of fear about something. That's not the same thing as the real tsunami. Let's look at social withdrawal due to feelings of inadequacy. More questions, sorry. Do you feel alone in this world? Do you feel alone? We are all alone in this world. We came into this world alone and we will leave it alone. All right? But that doesn't mean that we are unloved and we don't matter. Where is your connection? Silly things like people will go, really, that's the best you can do, Elaine? Some days, the greatest love that I experience, the greatest I'm not alone, are my two crazy dogs. Okay. They are so funny. They, no matter if it's my best day or my worst day, they think I'm great. All right, having nothing to do with the fact that I feed them. They think I'm great. Their response is so, there is always a source for love and acceptance, right? Always. Where is it for you? Where is it for you? Go find it. It's there. Go find it. That's your job. What do you need? Where is it? And how do you get enough of it to make the difference? Are you deeply afraid of conflict? Conflict does not mean fighting. It means you're getting to know the other person better. Are you afraid of rejection and that you take criticism to heart? Sometimes rejection, it can actually be a privilege and an honor to be disliked by some people. Do you really want to fit in with everybody? No, not necessarily. Okay. All it means is that at that point in time, the two of you are not in harmony, or the group of you are not in harmony. If you're on your path, so be it. You'll come back around. If you are an integral part of each other's life, you don't need to be embraced and accepted every moment of every day of any kind of relationship. Some days there will be rejection. And you know what? You get to know yourself a little better. Maybe you build some strengths that aren't strengths you've had before. Maybe it interrupts a codependent relationship that has developed. That's a good thing. But it feels like rejection. And criticism, you know what? Criticism is a good thing, so long as it's not called blaming or abuse. That's different, right? Criticism is an opportunity to understand how you're being perceived by an other or others. It's good feedback. You can take it in and you can consider, was that my intent? Is that really what I want? Is that really what I need? You can make personal adjustments. It doesn't change your identity or your authenticity to grow and develop and make alterations. You're getting more information about yourself. You're also getting more information if it was kindly, respectfully offered. We're not talking about a verbal beating up here or abuse. We're not talking about manipulative narcissism. We're not talking about somebody who has an agenda and wants to convince you that somehow you're not part of the team or you're off base somehow. We're not talking about that. We're talking about honest, respectful, difference of opinion, criticism. Take it in, consider it, adapt accordingly, thank them. That'll surprise them. Okay. Do you feel like you're not good enough to be accepted by others? Is that part of why you have isolated yourself and you're feeling alone? Okay. Do you feel frequently a frequent need to isolate yourself from others? Now, there are certain positions in a family, an only child, for instance, or a child that is in an age range for the birth order in a family where the child above, even if you're not an only child, the child above was 4 or more years older and 4 or more years younger. That's my position actually in my family. I'm the middle child. I'm the oldest child. I'm the middle child of the whole family, pre-war, post-war. I am an only child because the brothers and sisters above me and older than I am are 6 and 7.5 years older, and the child younger than me is 5 years younger. And I was the baby of that first family. I'm an only child, and I am the eldest child of the second post-war family. All right. And so why is that important? Only children are known to have a higher need for alone time. All right. And so if you happen to be in the order of birth where there was more than 4 years on either side, maybe that's just part of who you are. Maybe that's not really isolation. Isolation is different. All right. Isolation is when you feel the loss, you feel the discordance, you feel the void. All right. That's isolation. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about feelings of helplessness. If you had a narcissistic parent, or you had a parent or a significant other, could be a spouse as well. All right. You were inculcated into feelings of helplessness, even when you tried your best to be yourself authentically, to have your opinions, to separate and individuate as a human being, as a child in that family. That was probably a pretty helpless feeling. All right. So, more questions. Do you feel like you have very little control over your life? Is that how feelings of helplessness play out for you? Do you feel tired of trying to be strong and make things better? You're just sort of worn out from the struggle. Does life feel like a constant battle? Are you worn out enough that you feel like life is against you? Next week, what we're going to talk about are steps to healing and rewriting your story, the story that was scripted for you by the parent or parents or significant others in your life who have narcissistic traits. Okay, now I'm going to go to the chat box and I'm going to see what we have there, chat. I'll give it to you right now. The author of the procrastination book, it is Jane, Jane, Burka, Burka. She's a PhD, and Lenora, Lenora, Yuen, Yuen, again, PhD. And I always get the title of that book wrong because I'm a flawed and imperfect human being. It's Procrastination, I believe it's Procrastination, Why You Do It and How to Stop Now. And it is the Bible on procrastination. It's fabulous. And she's a very, very skilled therapist in the US, in California, I think. Very, very skilled. All right. Again, a direct message. As a newbie, could you explain how this feeling of not good enough, procrastination, fear relates to hoarding? When you don't feel like enough, when you don't feel a reasonable degree of competence, when you don't recognize what your strengths are, not that you have to be conceited or have an elevated sense of your own competence and importance, but just that you are good enough, that you are worth success, you are worth, and you'll recover. If you make a mistake, it isn't a personal deficit. You're not deficient, all right? It's just you didn't either try hard enough, you didn't apply knowledge that you had, or you need to develop more skills with respect to whatever that was. How does that relate to hoarding? If you're not good enough, something as difficult as and requires hard work, requires self-confidence, self-esteem for sure. Where are you going to get the juice? Why would you make that effort? Because it's not just an effort, it's a sustained effort. And one of the worst things that can happen to somebody who has created a hoarded environment, okay, is to clean it up and not maintain well enough. All right. If you want to beat yourself up, that's a really good way to do it. So I argue in favor of slow and steady wins the race. And while you're deciding what stays and what leaves your environment, which is the context of hoarding, right, where it happens, you're sorting in your mind as well. You're sorting in your life. You're sorting the relationships that work and don't work while you clean up. You don't just clean up your environment. You don't just take back your spaces. You take back your life as well. And you do that by cleaning out the things that are no longer appropriate for you today moving forward. All right? This is not about good housekeeping. That's just how it looks on the outside. All right, that's how all of those things have to do with hoarding. Because if you're spinning your wheels and you are wasting your energy and your juice, your fuel on misplaced comorbidities like depression, anxiety, the spinning of adult ADD and ADHD, living that cyclone out every day, the chances of you actually remediating the environment and being able to maintain it well enough, not perfectly, okay? You want to be learning some skills, go back to the podcast. I've been doing them for almost a year now. And Chantal, yay, Chantal, wherever you are, woo, she made these fabulous titles, labels for each podcast. All right, so go back and listen to it. There's a bounty of them there on every topic that people struggle with, that they have sent me an email to say, I'd like to know more about this. Could you do a podcast on this? And continue to send those ideas. My goal in doing this is keep it free. Number one, keep it free so that nobody gets left behind. And the other thing that I want is I want it to give you the information so that you can take that next step forward. All right. Okay. So now you're not a newbie anymore, Sarah. Are we all on our own, truly alone? Well, I like to think that we actually are never truly alone. Here's why. One of 6 limiting ego beliefs. I'm separate from others. That is my body defines me as alone. Not true. So I see alone as independent. I don't see alone as lonely or that you've got nothing or no one that you can count on. I see it more as I'm alone, I came into this world alone. Why did I come into this world alone? Let me tell you, folks, we each came into this world alone because at that moment of birth, we were good enough. We didn't need, we were given life. We don't need a whole array of things to sustain us. And we have enough. Right now, as you listen to this podcast, all right, I want you to know I don't have the answers. You have the answers. My job is to help you open up the parts of yourself where you can drill down and find those answers for yourself that are specific to you. And you were born worthy of that. I was born worthy of that. I'm independent, which means that on my own, I am enough. Do I want? Do I need? Do I benefit from connection with others? Depends on who they are and what they want. All right, there are some people, yeah. And there are some people, no. And I am independent. I am independent, and it is my job. If I want to make whatever, and this is true for you too, if you want to make that contribution on this earth that you were given life for, now I'm saying I believe this. I don't know if you believe this, but I firmly believe this. Probably from the first interchange with my parents being taught this. You have something in this world that you were meant to do. Work hard, find it, and do it. So I am independent, and it's my job to choose what I align myself with and don't align myself with in order to be whatever force for good is my personal, intent for my life. So I'm not alone, Joseph. I'm not lonely, all right? But even when I don't know, even when it feels like, you want me to decide that one on my own? All right. Fundamentally, I am responsible for, and not in a perfectionistic guilt way, not in a heavy way. I am the only one who really knows what that decision has to be. And I'm prepared to make a mistake. I'm prepared to risk and make a mistake in order to find it, because I know that there will always be a path back if I need to retreat a bit because I started down the wrong path. As soon as I know that all things are retrievable. All things are fixable. There's always something. If I don't know how to do it, there's somebody who will be more knowledgeable, more experienced than I am, who can help me with that. What do they say? When you're ready for the message, the teacher comes. I believe that. I believe that. All I have to do is do the best that I can figure out, all right, and not waste my time repeating mistakes that I know aren't going to work, or beating myself up for being less than perfect. Why waste my energy on that? Not the same thing, not the same thing as when I find, okay, you did that again, and you knew the last 3 times that that was not going to work well. Like, what the heck is that about? So it's about self-responsibility too, accountability to myself. How was that ever going to work differently? Now, sometimes the context has changed. So it might be worth another try at something that didn't work terribly well the first time. Okay? Okay. That's true. Imperfection isn't a personal problem. It isn't a personal defect. It's a natural part of being human. Absolutely. And some of our imperfections are our most endearing qualities. Nobody likes a smarty pants, particularly a superior feeling smarty pants. Tiffany. Hello, Tiffany. This is my first time here listening while I work from the West Coast. Woo! Welcome. Welcome. I hope you become a regular. When you said I only deserve love and respect when I put up, no, I burst into tears. No, that's what a narcissist will tell you. I didn't say that. Okay. I am not saying that I believe that. That is what the narcissist inculcates you with. Why? Because they want to be first. They are masters at being first. Their whole message to you is, what do you mean, what about you? What about me? What about me? Enough talk about you. What about me? Okay. You don't know what you need? I'll tell you what you need. You need what I need. How many of those people do you have in your life? Or the passive ones. You gotta love the passive ones. They're so weak. They're so needy, right? They will be the last person standing on the face of the earth when you're on your knees, exhausted, trying to meet their needs. Oh, they're so misunderstood. Oh, how can you be so mean to me? Not give me what I need. You're so nasty. You're so, I didn't do anything wrong. No, that's right. You didn't. You didn't do anything. Everybody else is like little bees around you, the ants. There you are, just waiting for them to bring the sugar to you. Yeah. Watch out for the passive ones, the covert narcissists. You're going to feel so guilty. You're going to think you're crazy. You're going to, Like, there's no way out of this. It's like we're caught in some kind of a loop here, right? Watch that. Okay. And yes, Leslie, I did see that, and I thought of you throughout the week, and I hoped that you've taken it to heart and you were making it work for you. Okay, we're going to run over a bit because we have 10 new questions, but I do have a workshop that I need to start at 12:30. So we're just, I know I'm not alone because of my faith in God. Good, Suzanne. As it has grown, I feel better about myself and know that I'm loved. Good, which I have never felt in my whole life. Good for you. Woot, woot, Suzanne. Where are you? Woot. Good for you. And good for your faith. Great for your faith. Okay. Well, I think that pretty much everyone in the waiting room. We've got people in the waiting room. Don't tell me that now. Okay. All right. Well, apparently we've answered all the questions. I will see you next week, and we will be talking about steps to healing and rewriting your story. Okay? Take care, everybody. Have a great week. Thanks for coming. Come back next week.